everyone, I'm Kelly Z at the Core Training, and you're joining us for the Coach's Playbook, where we interview one of our coaches about a tactic that has made a huge difference in their business. So joining us today is Marjorie Adam, one of our realtor coaches. She's with Nest Realty in Charlottesville, Virginia. Welcome, Marjorie.
Hey, everyone. I'm very excited to be here today. So I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia. I joined the Core as a student in 2009. I became a coach in 2014. I have a smaller team, I guess we could say, for a lot of the Core students or coaches. There's a total of 5, including me. And so I have 2 showing agents and 2 RP1s and me.
All right.
So that's kind of the composition of our team.
Cool. And so, Marjorie, we were talking a little bit before we got started here about a really cool thing that you've implemented in your business that's made a huge difference for you. So tell us about what that is.
Yeah, so it was hard when you get the question of what's one thing that you've done, because the natural thing I think people think is one specific thing, like, well, farming or whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. So this is a little maybe more broad-based, but it's something you hear about and work on. So when we joined the Core, the biggest thing was you got to really get better at delegation. So I would say, honestly, the thing that's made the biggest difference in the past couple of years, especially for me, is really fully implementing proper delegation to a team member. So I think that's the thing that I would say if someone could really work on, that's something that's going to make the biggest difference.
And so what does fully and properly delegating look like? Okay,
so I think we all may have issues with delegation. I know I do. In that, first of all, I was like, oh, I do this better than anyone else. Why would I delegate it, right? I should keep it. And secondly, it was that I was sure that I was clear in my expectation, right? I think when I hear complaints with people, they say, oh, I have team members and they don't do what I say or when I say it. And it's like, well, I think what we all got out of doing is just throwing things at our team members and expect that if we give them 5 things to do, they know which one is the most important or urgent. They know when we expect it to be done and how we expect it to be done. So now, I think the biggest things have been delegating from to-do lists, right? We have daily to-do lists. And the team members all also have super specific, on Mondays, these things have to be accomplished, right? So they already have a list of accomplishments and things they have to do. So if I come in, so if you're my RP1 or my assistant, and I say, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this, they know to say to me, great. So I already have this list of things to do. Where does this go on that list? When does this have to be accomplished? And they know if they're not clear on what I'm asking them to do, that I need to further explain. So I can't just run in to say to you, hey, you need to call the Joneses and tell them about the inspection. I need you to call them. These are the things that we need to make sure we need to go over. This is the deadline. I need you to do that before 4 o'clock today. And then they need to make sure they confirm they understand why, they have the tools to do it, they understand what I've asked them to do, right? So I think we, as team leaders, aren't super good at clearly delegating, meaning here's what I need you to do. And the first time you delegate a task like this, I'm going to role play, right? So here's what I need you to do. I need you to call the Joneses, and it's about home inspection. And here's what they need to know. Here's the deadline. And here's why this is so important. So if I were calling the Joneses, here's how that call would go. Ring, ring. Here's what we're going to discuss. Here are the important pieces, right? So do you understand that? So if I'm delegating it to you, do you understand that?
I understand, right? I need to.
Yeah, you understand why this is so important.
Yes.
Okay, right? And if they have questions from them, then I need to talk to them, and then you can put them on my calendar. That's what I need to get, right? We need that addendum by tomorrow, so we need to do that by 3 o'clock today.
Okay.
Right? So if you had questions about it, then that would be the time for us to discuss it. And if you role play it, and when I say fully delegate, here's why you're doing it, here's how you're doing it, here's when you're doing it by, here's why it's important that it's done, and here's in your already busy day when I need this done. I need you to drop everything and do it now, right? Or it needs to be done before lunch, or you know what, before midday. Be clear on the expectation.
Okay.
So I feel like before we'd say, oh, never mind, I'll just do it, just give it back, right? I'll just make the call. And the problem with doing that is if you don't explain what it is, why it's important, how they need to do it, what that conversation should go like, right? So it's maybe even a role play, right? And then here's what I need. Then they don't have the tools completely completely that they need to complete that task.
Yeah, I like what you said, the why. So they understand. So you're not freaking out later in the day and they don't understand why you're so upset because you haven't communicated the urgency of it.
Yes. I mean, so one thing about me, I am definitely a checklist freak, right? So I have a checklist for my checklists. And about 4 years ago with one of my assistants, one of the items on a buyer like checklist from contract to close was to make sure that they completed their loan application within 5 days. And it was a phone call or an email, depending on the communication of the client, of making sure that was done. And when I would check their checklists, I was much more like in the, it was not such a good deal. It was like I made sure they had got it done way more than I needed to. I noticed it said done every time. And then I realized it wasn't getting done. They didn't understand the importance. It's like, why? I just, I mentioned it to them. And then it was like, well, do you understand why that's important? No. Well, they're going to miss a very important contingency in the contract. If we miss a loan commitment, we have a big problem. And they were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. So they didn't understand the task. They kind of blew the task off. And it really could have been an ultimate issue, right? So if they don't know why it's so important, then I think they don't understand completely what you need them to do.
That's awesome. And the other thing that I like that you said was the role play. So you're not just telling them all the details of what to do, you're also training them in the process of how you want that information communicated.
Well, if you think about it, like even with our team members, right? So as you know, we all make our daily calls. So let's pretend you now have a buyer's agent. They need to call and follow up on leads as well, right? And so we all as team leaders say, or it can be a loan processor. So for lenders listening too. So you need to do follow-up loan calls, whatever they are. If you don't role play those calls, how do you know that they're touching on the points they need to, they're giving the information they need to? If it's to try to capture a lead, how do you know they're even asking the right questions?
Yeah.
What happens when they hit roadblocks? Like you call, hey, do you have any questions? No. Okay, bye. Right? Then they have nothing good happens. So if you role play through these things and explain the importance of, well, we do it this way, this is how we complete it, and you role play with them, not easily, right? Because we all want to role play and we're like, of course I want to buy a house. Yes, I'll meet with you on Tuesday. And it's like, that's not how it works.
Right.
So if we really show them kind of ways to overcome obstacles and everything, not just telling, I think the problem is we all tell people what to do, not how to do it.
Right. Yeah. So let's say if someone's listening who is really struggling with delegation and hasn't really delegated much of anything, where's a place where you would recommend getting started, and how would you get started doing that?
So I think for me, the biggest thing with delegation are what are the things I absolutely have to do? What are my top jobs, right? So, for me, it's capturing the client. So if I'm the rainmaker, I have to absolutely speak to those leads to get them in. I have to convert the listing, right? I have to do those higher level things. I don't have to do, so again, I told you I'd be honest, and you and I were talking offline. It's like, okay, so let's show how delegation. I've been a realtor for 23 years. I've been in the course since 2009. I've been a coach since 2014. I have only not been inputting my own listings for a year and a half. Right? Why? Because, I mean, really, people are like, what? I'm better than anyone else, right? I can do it in 5 minutes. Like my builder, he hired me because I should do it. I'm better than it. Why would I train someone else? That's silly. Right? So ultimately, I think we don't delegate because we think, first of all, we can do it better, right? And we don't want to let things go.
Right.
Right. So to me, you don't delegate the higher level issues. I don't delegate if a client's really upset and they need to talk to someone. That has to be me.
Okay.
Right? But I don't have to call to order an appraisal, right? So you've got to delegate when you have a team, even just one team member, you delegate those things. They're not, to me, your top job priorities that are still really important things. So yes, as a realtor, you delegate inputting your listings. You delegate putting up the sign. You don't delegate asking for the price adjustment, right?
Okay.
That's more important for me. So those direct client top priority communication things are what are not delegated.
Okay.
Right?
That's really good. And then how do you make sure that you, like once you've started trying to do that, that you don't take that back?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. So you got to let people make mistakes and you've got to let them learn from them. I think too often also as team leaders, it's like, oh, they messed it up, right? So you delegate the first inputting of a listing and you think, oh gosh, this is all wrong. I knew I should have done it myself. right? Because we don't take enough time to train on the front end. So quite frankly, Bethany, who works with me now, she does all listings, like she barely lets me touch them. It was a little hard for me, I have to admit at first. Now I'm like, sweet, bye-bye. I sat with her, right? And this is how you do it. And this is what goes here. This is where you find this. This is how I want this to look, right? This is the space we have. This is the information that's necessary. It's a little tedious at front, but if you fully, and then you sit with them to do their first and second one or whatever it is. You can't just, here's a file, you'll figure it out. Here's my login. Best of luck, right? That's what we all do. And then we say, oh, I hired the wrong person. They can't do this. I hired the wrong person. So it is taking that upfront time to fully train someone on whatever it is you're trying to delegate so that you can remove yourself. And Bethany's also good. If I'm like, oh, I'll take that. She's like, nope, I got it.
Okay.
It doesn't allow me to take it back.
Right? Empowering your team to say, I got it.
Yeah, they've got to say, I got it, but they can't if you haven't fully trained them how to got it, right?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so there's two sides to it there.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's really trusting them and not micromanaging them. Like, can you imagine, so if you're my RP1 and you're inputting the listing and I'm kind of standing over you, right, when you're on the computer, like, don't type that there, you know what I mean? That's,
do you want to do that?
Yeah, then they're like, well, you'll do it. Fine, I got it. And then you're like, I can't believe it, they didn't do it. It's like, because you're a pain in the, you know what, right? Like, you're micromanaging, so we got to stop that. And then there's a follow-up. They have daily to-do lists. We go through the to-do lists. If I'm not in the office, so like when we're at the summit, or if I'm in appointments all day, there's an end-of-day update email. Right? I get an end-of-day update. This was done, this was done, this was completed. Here are the questions I have, right? So it keeps them on task. It lets me know it's done. You know, it gets crossed off the list at that point. So it's kind of a follow-up to make sure it's done.
And it's accountability for them to, and another opportunity to ask questions as well, right?
Yeah. And then another thing I think for delegation, you know, if you don't have also, if you're running in, right, because we're famous lenders, realtors, here's our 8 files, we kind of throw them up at someone and then we take off. So if I say we need to do this, 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 and this, all right, this is an A, this is a B, this is a C, we talk about that too. Delegating A's that have to be done for end of day, B's that need to be done generally for us within 48 hours, C's that have to be done before everyone leaves on Friday. So also clarity of, I think another thing, we as the team leader know, oh gosh, I'm telling you to do this, this is urgent. You don't necessarily know that, right? That urgency isn't the same, because remember, they have a list of 30 things to do, right? It's all urgent. They all got to do it all. So really clear, like with you, right? So if you're my team member, that you're clear to ask whether it be A's, B's, or C's, or this has to be done by noon, this has to be done before everything else. Make sure we're clear.
That's wonderful. And my last question with all of that is, how has becoming a delegator improved your business and your life, I imagine?
Yeah, I mean, I think really being clear is it allows us, we all know that there's certain things we have to get done. And if we don't delegate, we don't have time for those our top 3 jobs, right? Like I have to get leads, convert leads, run my team. And if I'm forever in the file, not allowing my RP1 to do that, if I'm forever trying to input the listing or follow up on issues I don't have time to do my job, right? So what's allowed me to do is I have a pretty great schedule, such as today at 3:15, I'm leaving to go watch my son's baseball game, right? So because the team dialed in and delegated to, I have a good quality of life. That's
what we're all aiming for, right? Is to be able to enjoy our lives. So
absolutely.
Cool. Well, Marjorie, do you have any closing thoughts on delegation, or how the course helped you out? Any of that?
I would say it's a harder thing to learn to do all the time, right? Because we tend to want to take things back. I think if you can empower your team, really stick with it, work with training, have them own it, right? It will make that really, I think, has made the biggest difference, period, of any tactic, right? Anything else that I've learned, which is a lot, and still have to learn, which is a lot, it has made the biggest difference, right? That functional, proper delegation. I think if you get people to master that, they're already going to free up more time to do things that nobody can get done, like their update calls and their daily calls and everything. Yeah.
Well, that's a scary thought, actually having time to do all that, huh?
Yes. Well, most people be like, oh, okay, no delegation because I don't want to make the phone calls. But they're important too. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate all your insight on that. If any of you are interested in how we can help you grow your business like Marjorie's, please reach out to us at thecoretraining.com or on social media at thecoretraining. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.